It's a BumbleKast Mini, sponsored by Tempo.
There are several zones in Dimp's games with the descriptor of Angel. Those being Gigantic Angel from Sonic Pocket Adventure, Cosmic Angel from Sonic Advance, and Chaos Angel from Sonic Advance 3. However, I'm not sure if it's been clarified what Angel actually means here. I've tried looking up the definition of the word on multiple occasions, but I always come up dry. Is this just a translation error, or is there some deeper meaning to the names of these zones?
In the case of Gigantic Angel and Cosmic Angel, I think they're just supposed to be, a heavenly body type of thing. They're up in space. They're high in the sky. It's just a dramatic way of drawing that parallel. Chaos Angel is on Angel Island. So I figured that's just chaos on Angel Island type of deal.
Mm-hmm. A Gigantic Angel. I've always found that one funny. Kind of silly.
Sage, will you pilot it?
Yeah.
Cruel Sonic's thesis.
Are there any standalone acts from any Sonic games that stand out to either of you? Be it for unique level design or gimmicks, presentation, story significance, etc. A personal example for me is Green Hill Act 3. Compared to the first two, something about it feels unorthodox. Also, feel free to expand this question outside of Sonic if you so choose.
In terms of standalone zones, the stuff that immediately springs to mind is like Sky Chase, where it's like all of a sudden you're on a plane.
Yeah, it's very different.
On the plane. Hidden Palace Zone, either of them, they're a big departure from what was coming before and just the general flow of stuff. Sky Sanctuary was just, it's also very unconventional with the way it continues to go by each segment, and it's a single act. Or even the big shifts between some of the stages, like Lava Reef Act 1 and Act 2 could have been completely different zones.
Yeah.
With their themes, and Sandopolis the same way. So I like that. It's neat. It breaks up the pace. It makes it feel like you're actually progressing between regions, or that you're in one large region that has different aspects to it. So I like those a lot.
Yeah, there's some subtle differences. Like, I want to say there's something. There was one of the zones in Sonic 2, I think. I guess, like, I know Carnival Night, or not Carnival Night. Casino Night kind of stands out to me as being mostly empty of enemies. It's mostly just bumpers and some hazards here and there. So that's kind of
act is
strange.
Like one really big pinball machine in it.
Right? Yeah. That's the second act has more of those. Yeah. Oh, Ice Cap, the Act 1. The opening, at least, with snowboarding, the whole snowboarding segment. That's very different, actually. I wish it were longer, but at the same time, if it were longer, it would get kind of tiresome, I suppose. But
yeah,
it's one of those things where it's like, wow, okay, this is pretty awesome. I didn't expect to see Sonic doing this. It's pretty cool. So
Sonic 3 and Knuckles had a lot of those Act 1, Act 2 elements to it.
Right? Yeah. Where they weren't quite the same. So, what are your favorite moveset gimmicks from the Sonic series? I don't mean mechanics that add on to the base moveset, like the boost, spin dash, or homing attack, but rather the game-specific gimmicks that complement said core moves. I adore the tricks from Sonic Rush, stockpiling adrenaline into the tension gauge. But my hat's off to the boost from Advance 2, collecting rings to boost your acceleration until you hit a speed cap, then pushing through it and shattering the sound barrier, completely outrunning the camera, is pure dopamine. Do either of you have any that stick out to you?
See, it's funny you say that, because I hated that in Advance 2. Because it seemed to kick in every time I was just about in the groove and knew what to do. So all of a sudden I was accelerating and I'm like, wait, no, I don't know where I am in the stage. And
honestly,
I plowed into a wall or something.
Honestly, yeah, it gets kind of annoying because it kicks in like right when you want to go turn around or do something else. And it's like, come on.
I see the appeal. Absolutely.
Yeah.
That sense of whoosh is great, but it's like, no, just don't do it.
Yeah.
I wish you had more control over it. Like you could trigger it.
Mm-hmm.
Like
later on.
Burst gauge in the Rush series.
Right. Yeah.
And that one I liked because not only did it give you that sense of whoosh, but it was something that was kind of tactical to it. You had to do your tricks to build up the gauge. You had to take the right route to build up the gauge. You had to time when you're using the gauge to get maximum efficiency out of it. That was neat. I like that. I wasn't good at it, but I liked it.
Mm-hmm. I'm trying to think of any of these any others, like not mechanics, not additional mechanics, but
I feel like the wording too is a little cumbersome to work with, because I would count the trick system as a game mechanic.
Right. Yeah.
Like it's part of, you have to do a certain thing to get the airborne qualities to pull the moves off, and they serve as a function of building the tension gauge. So that is a game mechanic.
Yeah. And it does add on to the base moveset.
I mean, like, homing attack is just an extension of the normal spin jump.
Yeah.
Because you can home in on it.
Yeah. And like the drop dash.
Like saying, yeah, that's an extension of the spin dash.
Spin dash, yeah.
Or
it's a
spin jump, depending on how you want to slice it.
It's a much quicker spin dash, basically, and without the rev up. And I actually kind of like the spin dash, or not the spin dash. I do like the spin dash, but I like the drop dash more. I think the drop dash is one of the best things the Sonic series has done in ages.
Mm-hmm.
As far as adding a move, a good way to add a move, especially to classic Sonic. It works really well for the classic games.
You know, I wasn't particularly good at it, but I really did like the side loop out of Frontiers. Like, not just running around a thing for the initial attack, but, you know, working it into the combo.
Yeah.
And then, you know, felt really dumb never employing it against any of the bosses. As Supersonic's like, oh yeah, he's got the move. He could have done the thing, and that would have been. I feel dumb.
The side loop is super fun. It's fun to just move around in Frontiers. Once you get dialed into it, once you start feeling it, once you get used to it, it's great. I really like it. All right. Here's another one. Now that Sonic Spinball is canon, does that mean the option menu music is canon too? What horrible things happen anytime Eggman does minor maintenance on the Vago Fortress or Veggio Fortress? I don't know, man. Whatever you want to call it.
Give me a second. I need to look up what the music is again. Okay, so you've hooked up the jumper cables to a car battery and you're tapping the two ends together.
Well, it's like that animation of Sage, or not Sage, of Surge. Remember?
That's a fun track, if a bit abrasive.
I mean, I actually like it. I mean, it's bad, but
no, it gets you grooving.
It does, but it's weird, and I mean, it's the Gems sound driver for the Sega Genesis just sounds like.
Look, it's hard to play a Tesla coil, okay? But
it's true.
By dingy, somebody put the tinfoil on their hands and they did
it. Yeah.
And I don't think Eggman really had enough time to do any maintenance on the Veggio Fortress, considering it was in an active volcano and the whole thing got blowed up.
Yeah, that's fine. He's got robots and badniks to do all his maintenance now anyway.
Yeah. Although I imagine whenever maintenance mode was activated, it played the options music.
Mm-hmm. What is your
favorite? That way you can't tell if it's like mechanical noises. Is it the music? Is it the din of the thing being reconstructed? Doesn't matter. It makes the same sound.
It's both. What is your favorite remix of Green Hill Zone's music? I'm personally partial to the 4 Advanced 3 mixes, combining Central City's theme from Sonic Battle into the melody, and especially the Act 3 mix that starts at the end of the song and uses accents to deliver what I personally feel is a very emotionally driven song.
I really like the Sonic Generations remixes.
Mm-hmm.
Especially, I think it's the modern one that gives that kind of ska feel.
Act 2? Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah, that's good.
Which, really, anything to liven that up, because I'm really, really, really tired of Green Hill.
Dreams of an Absolution is a pretty good Green Hill remix.
There you go. Yep. Yeah, give you that one.
Not bad. It's not bad. Have either of you played any Sonic prototypes, or any video game prototypes for that matter? Ian, if you have not, you absolutely should, since they technically count as official Sega media and are thusly not off limits.
Actually, in sophomore year of college, my roommate had a bootleg disc of various ROMs for his Dreamcast, and on it was the Simon Y beta for Sonic 2.
Oh yeah.
And Sonic Crackers. And I was flipping out. It's like, oh my God, you have these. And he's like, is that important? Is that a good thing? I'm like, you have this disc and you don't know what. Okay, fine, whatever. So yeah, I made a point of messing around in Wood Zone and what you could in Genocide City, boot level, die. Oh, appropriate. Tried to run around Sonic Crackers and it's like, okay, so you can't really do anything in this really, but still, it's neat to actually be able to experience those.
Oh yeah. Yeah, I man, that was really like around the discovery of those particular prototypes were like kind of where I was coming into my Sonic fandom and was like just kind of floored. I'd never really experienced anything like it as far as game prototypes or anything before. So yeah, it's very fascinating to see the development process and what the different stages of development, what a game looks like in different stages of development. Like Sonic Crackers, that is a very weird game. I see why they cut Sonic out of that one and made it a Knuckles game instead, because they're like, yeah, this is not really a Sonic game especially anymore, so...
More recently, when I was brought on to do Frontiers and I was out in California, I got to play the alpha build of that.
Mm-hmm.
I guess the vertical slice. So that was a trip to see it in its earliest forms.
Wow.
I mean, if you're frothing at the mouth, they're going, "Oh, what secrets are there?" It was just like the most basic island layout. You could run around for like maybe 5 minutes at most. There really wasn't a ton different mechanically speaking. And then you could run up and face Giganto, and I think you could climb it. I don't even think you could fight it for real.
Huh.
Like some of the structures were different. The cyberspace portals were a different shape, I guess. But I probably shouldn't say too much more about that.
The Sonic 3 prototype is very fascinating to me. It's always been one of those, like, a mystery in a sense of where the music that was featured in the Sonic & Knuckles collection for PC came from. It's like, oh, okay. So that was the original intended music. Got it. Thought it was something weird, but nope. Apparently, that was the intended music. And also just the differences, the way they cut the game in half, basically, between Sonic 3 and Sonic & Knuckles. Just, yeah, really a fascinating thing to see. In Sonic Origins, new opening cutscenes for Sonic CD, we see Amy doing a fortune card reading. She initially draws a card depicting a ghost with a scythe, almost certainly spelling doom for the rosy rascal. Not pleased with the result, she puts the card back and redraws it, this time getting a knight in shining armor, foretelling of a certain courageous hero soon to arrive. However, all of the cards she was using are quickly swept away by the wind, leading her to discover the newly arrived little planet. Now maybe I'm reading between the lines here, but could this possibly be interpreted as Sonic himself defying destiny, with the fate of Amy and Little Planet at the whim of the wind?
If that works for you, I am not going to discount it.
All right. Which Sonic character from any continuity eats their cereal dry? Well, we know who eats the dry coffee beans.
Oh, yeah. Knuckles, because where's he going to get milk from?
I don't know. Same place Luke Skywalker does, I think.
Oh, Lord. Where is that on Angel Island?
Maybe he has almond milk.
Maybe. I mean, just grabs a bunch of almonds and crushes them real hard.
In water.
Yeah.
He does not milk the chow. No. No, chat. No.
Let's see. Vector, because, they can't afford milk this week. It tastes better dry. What?
Mm-hmm. There are coconuts on Angel Island, I suppose. Crack one of those open, pour cereal in there.
Yuck.
Well, I mean, I don't like coconuts either, but I'm not Knuckles, so...
I mean, I'm kind of biased because I eat my cereal dry more often than not, to be perfectly honest.
Really?
Yeah.
Most I can't. I don't know. I need something with it. Need something to help it go down.
I get it. It's just I I don't know.
Not orange juice. Put orange juice in their cereal.
I really can't stand it once it gets soggy, regardless of what it is. It immediately is no bueno.
Mm-hmm. I get it. I get that too, but at the same time, come on, man. Maybe I'm looking too far into this, but the Sonic franchise at large seems to have an underlying tone of transhumanism sprinkled throughout it. Characters constantly striving to defy all that's known and reach unparalleled heights. Some giving up body parts in exchange for superior ones, others forcibly subjecting others to transforming procedures, genuinely believing that's the best outcome, and even the humans themselves shown to be vastly inferior to all of the non-human characters, bar Eggman, who even then can only keep up with Sonic through intelligence and not physical prowess. Again, I'm not saying the series is trying to push a transhumanist message, but is it at least reasonable to say that these themes can be gleaned from the franchise's various sub-series?
I can see where you're coming from.
Lightly, I would say.
I mean, I could see you making a decent enough thesis and being able to pose a fairly sound argument for it. I don't believe that is the intention.
Mm-hmm.
I don't think it ever has been, but I can't speak to the entire history of the franchise. You know, maybe there is somebody somewhere who was like, "Oh yes, somebody finally got it," and I'm like, "Really? Wait, what? When?" That's not been anything I've expressly been doing with my tenure on Sonic Media, but I definitely see where you're coming from. I can't just dismiss it out of hand.
Right. Kind of makes sense to me. What's up with the inconsistent Robian eye colors? Sometimes they're normal looking with white sclera and colored irises / pupils, and other times they are more Metal Sonic styled with black sclera and beady red irises / pupils. At first I thought the change happened, especially in Uncle Chuck, whenever someone was under Robotnik's control or not. But over time it kept switching back and forth, regardless of being controlled or not. Was it just up to whatever the colors felt like that Tuesday? Or do you think they were actually trying to convey something cohesive?
I can't speak with a ton of authority before my time, but I'm generally willing to chalk that up to lack of editorial oversight.
Yeah, just a tad. I don't mean to dredge up a tired old topic. And trust me, I do understand your official position regarding things and that you are not the be-all, end-all commanding voice in this topic. But with that said, I want to know your thoughts on why you feel people keep asking you about Shadow and his characterization, which I understand I'm now adding to. My deepest apologies. Yeah, you should be sorry. This is me talking, by the way. This is Kyle talking.
I mean, I appreciate the lengthy disclaimer.
As an amateur writer myself, I have a decent understanding of what constitutes good characterization and when it falls flat. And I also know that when your big boss says you got to do something, you better do it or risk your job. So maybe I'm actually the issue here. But after countless episodes of the BumbleKast, I fail to comprehend why people feel compelled to keep coming back and not just accept that Sega wants Shadow written a certain way. What are your thoughts on not Shadow himself, but the situation surrounding him? How do you handle it as the middleman? And is there anything you can say to help me wrap my mind around the thought process of the larger Sonic community? Well, okay. First of all, let me say
that
something.
That last one.
I know.
No, sir.
It will never make full sense to you. I'm sorry, Tempo. It will never make full sense. But I will say that the reason why is because Shadow has just been very inconsistent. So that's why. The way that Sega has wanted Shadow to be written seems to vary. It's all over the place, and it's changed over the years. So, anyway,
it's multifaceted.
Yeah.
In terms of the community, the community is so vast and so creative and is so multi-generational that you're going to have an innumerable number of opinions and ideas on how things should be or how they remember things being, and you're never going to get a consistency from a crowd that large, which is great for varied feedback.
Yeah,
but it also means there is no consensus to be had. As Kyle said, Shadow's characterization has been variable over the years, and some folks remember distinct depictions of him, whether it's SA2 or Sonic 06, where his character was at his strongest, and aren't content with the way he has been since then, which I get. Archie Shadow, pre-reboot more than anything, had a much more nuanced and sympathetic characterization. There was more introspection on his part that the reader was privy to, and current Shadow does not have that. He is not very vocal about his feelings or his thoughts or his motivations, and the viewer, player, reader, whatever, doesn't have access to them like they used to, which brings about a completely different characterization.
Yeah.
Or interpretation, at least. So never mind, it's a different desire for the characterization, but it's a different execution of that character.
Yeah.
There are talks in general about that by folks. Hopefully we can see things maybe shift away from what currently is a little closer to what the majority, I think, thinks they want. But like you said, I am the middleman at best. So all I can do on my end is be as clear and concise as I can be. But there comes a point where it's like, I can't really say anything much more on the subject.
Yeah. Yeah. And really, everyone just kind of has their own ideas of what Shadow is or what Shadow should be. And he seems to be the character that gets the most of that. Except maybe Sonic. I don't know. Maybe Sonic and Shadow have it equally, but
I don't know. I think Shadow probably more so.
Yeah. I think,
and he's had the most clear character arc.
Yeah, that's true.
He had the face turn. He had the existential crisis. He came to the conclusion to move on from his past.
Mm-hmm.
There's an actual character arc to follow there, as meandering as it was. Sonic doesn't really have an arc. Sonic is Sonic.
It's true. Sonic is just there. Sonic is the player character. He's just along for the ride. He's kind of silly in that way. But yeah, even still, people argue about what kind of character Sonic should be. It's like, he doesn't really have...
Everybody's got a... Every character gets that too.
I know. Shadow gets it the most, though. I think...
Need I even mention Amy?
No, you don't. Why did you? Now you know what you've done, Ian. You've made things
folks
worse.
Can comment below on what they feel is the right direction for Amy.
No.
Drive them metrics.
Okay, fine. If we're gonna game the algorithm, fine. Do it that way. You mentioned before, perhaps jokingly, that Kit is constantly dripping with so much water that if we pat his head, he squelches. There's a precious finnick. I noticed how long and droopy his bangs usually are, so if you somehow manage to dry off Kit, does his fur go poof?
No, it crinkles like dead dry grass.
Oh no.
Poor little skinny, scrawny, dead leaf puppy boy.
Oh no. Crunchy. How do you personally feel about King Maximilian? As a leader, as a father, as a husband, as a mentor, etc., etc. Doesn't matter the writer or the time period, anything is game here, even your own work. Is there anything you particularly enjoy or despise? How do you feel he could be better? Who did he have the best dynamics with?
If we're talking pre-boot, he was a jerk.
He sucked.
And I feel like there's an interesting investigation of it because he was a product of his time and his environment.
Yeah.
Like his worldview, his priorities, they were all formed by the lineage and his position, his connection with the goo. He was not the master of his own fate. And I think to a degree he was okay with that because that's how he was brought up to be. I mean, when you're immersed in the goo and it says, this is how the world's going to turn out. And he's like, all right, here I am. This is how it goes. And then he also lives through one of the most tumultuous times for his kingdom, for his family, for himself. That throws his worldview kind of skewed. And I can see him doubling down super hard on what he thinks he knows is right and what he thinks should be, to the detriment of himself and all of those around him.
Mm-hmm.
I think to a large part, it wasn't necessarily malicious. I say a large part because some of it absolutely was, but mostly it wasn't malicious. It was just, it's what he knew and he couldn't break that mold. And the few times where it felt like it was still within the confines of what he understood things should be. So ultimately, for all of the crap things he did, I feel a little bit of sympathy for him because he was just a sad, broken man who couldn't change, who couldn't conceive of anything beyond what he had been taught to understand.
Yeah.
Post reboot, he was just funny, jolly King Max. He was, pip pip cheerio. Sally wants to go fight robots. Oh, darling, do have fun.
He wasn't even King Max though. He was King Nigel.
Oh, that's right.
Yeah.
Smashing good time and all that.
Yes. Good old Nigel.
Like Nigel was an attempt to kind of skew back towards Set AM.
Yeah.
King Acorn, who was, we didn't see a lot of him, but what was there was regal and commanding and understanding and fatherly and, everything that Archie Max was not.
And also Tim Curry.
Yeah, well, I mean, come on now. So, Nigel was more an attempt to get back to that fun, relatable, supportive, you actually want this guy on the throne king.
Yep. Have fun storming the castle. Be back by 8. Yes. All right. And we got a non-spoiler question for Sonic Frontiers. Oh, yeah. We got a non-spoiler question for Sonic Frontiers. It's been out for a hot minute, and people have been giving opinions on it. The most interesting one to me being the general consensus that your writing, flair, and characterization is apparently the single best part of the game. How do you feel about this as a writer? How about as a longtime Sonic fan? Knowing that Sega gave you guidelines and plot beats to work from, how much do you feel you can actually take credit for? And most importantly, compared to the rest of the game, biases aside, would you consider this victory justified? Or do you feel it may not have been a high bar to pass?
You're very kind, but this is a loaded question.
Oh, it's loaded. Don't shoot yourself with it.
I feel like I'm Adam West with a bomb over my head running down the dockyards. I'm very happy that that aspect was so well received by so many folks. Is it the single best thing? I wouldn't go that far. I mean, the best writing in the world wouldn't buoy a game if it wasn't fun. And Sonic Frontiers is fun.
Yes.
Like, it's just a fun game. It just feels good to play. So that is entirely the team's victory there. I had nothing to do with the coding. So, I will take credit for most of the plot beats that folks seem to like the best, because the plot beats and the skeleton were what were given to me. But the character moments, Amy and Knuckles and Tails' personal arcs, those are what I brought to the table. And I am proud of those. I'm very happy those got in the game, and I'm very happy that they resonated so well with so many people. So I will accept that little bit of kudos.
Yes, as you should.
As for comparison to other games, I don't like that, because Frontiers is a completely different game than a lot of what came before. Different mood, different game feel, different scope, different objectives, different directions. Like the direction that was given for Colors would not have been anything like the direction given to Frontiers. So I don't think it's a fair comparison.
Yeah. I mean, I liked it. I mean, I don't have much else to say. I think we've already talked about it enough, but yeah.
And personally speaking, I am a lifelong Sonic fan. I got to contribute to one of the major milestones in the franchise narrative. I'm happy with that, good or ill. I don't care. I get, that's a feather in my cap.
Yeah, twice.
I get to do.
You contributed to 2 major milestones, Ian. You're forgetting about Sonic Origins. Regardless of where the game itself kind of ended up as far as its quality.
That's a little bit different, because that's retreading old ground. That's
it is
taking what was established and updating it with direction from on high to render it what the current interpretation is. That's one thing.
Yeah, but still, it is a 30-year anniversary game. 31, I suppose, technically, but still.
I would dare say that the lore team had a lot of input on that too. That wasn't like, I can't really claim that one. That was a team effort. I did the main writing for that.
Yeah.
But there was a lot of contribution to it.
Okay.
Frontiers, I can lay more claim to. But even that was still, Kishimoto-san and Izuka-san's input. I don't know if Toyota-san had anything to say on it. I don't remember getting notes directly from him, but there were a lot of voices on it. But that one, I feel like I had more of an input on it. That one, I feel like I can claim to a degree.
Mm-hmm. That makes sense. All right, we got one last question. We've all heard about #knowing smile, but if someone asks you about something you have intel on, yet you do not enjoy the prospect of it, does knowing smile become knowing frown?
It has in the past a couple of times.
Oh, yeah.
I try not to do that because, #knowing smile, that's kind of a fun tease. Everyone knows that's something fun coming. What is it? Flynn, you dirty jerk. But knowing frown, that just feels like vague posting. Doom posting's like, oh, here's an unnice thing. I'm not going to specify it, so I'm going to let your imagination run wild, and you can assume the worst case scenario. That's no fun.
Nah, that's kind of mean.
And I feel like that's almost like asking for attention. It's kind of passive aggressive.
Mm-hmm.
So, when I do this in the future, I'm really putting my foot in my mouth, I guess. But in general, I don't want to do that because I feel like that just brings everybody down. And then there's no real answer of how bad is it, or is it going to change, whatever this hypothetical scenario is. It's just a downer. So now let's be positive. There's enough reasons to be worried in this world. I'm going to just keep on smiling. Keep on smiling. The whole world smiles with you when you're smiling. When you're smiling.
That's probably not a good idea to necessarily say that you dislike what you're working on.
That too. Yeah.
Yeah. Even if it's true. Speaking of truths, we've reached the end of this BumbleKast Mini. Not very many, but hey, sometimes it happens.
Thank you to Tempo for sponsoring this episode. If you want a BumbleKast Mini of your own, head over to patreon.com/BumbleKast, Ko-fi.com/BumbleKast, or become a YouTube member.
Catch you later.